Finally, we got a brand new Metal Gear Solid game. Rejoice. Okay, I am exaggerating there a bit. I'm of course talking about Death Stranding 2, which honestly is a Metal Gear Solid game for me in a lot of ways.
Something akin to a phantom pain.
So one of the biggest, saddest parts of the Konami-Kojima bust-up was it happened after Kojima and team finished up Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, which for my money is one of the best action games, one of the best stealth action games, and one of the best open world stealth action games. There aren't many games that are like it. And it was, sad for a lot of reasons, but for me, the biggest issue I had was it was looking like we would never get a follow-up to Metal Gear Solid 5, which was difficult because it was bursting with so much potential. It finally had a really interesting format for the open world. And in terms of presentation and sound and feel, it was spectacular. Metal Gear Solid 5, both Ground Zeroes and The Phantom Pain, is one of my favorite games of all time. So, when Kojima moved on to Death Stranding, I was a little disappointed for various reasons. Death Stranding, the first one, people would call it a game about walking, which it definitely is. So from that respect, it's not a Metal Gear Solid game at all. But it is in a few other ways. Most noticeably, it embodies Metal Gear Solid 5 spirit through how weird it is. The world is weird, the concepts are weird. It's bizarre in the same way that, Metal Gear Solid has a psychokinesis user.
Now I will move your controller.
It has a fat man on roller skates.
Life is short.
It's got an old dude that falls asleep if you take too long to shoot him in the face. It's weird. The issue was, from a gameplay sense, it is exactly what people call it, a walking game. It's not bad or uninteresting, in fact, quite the opposite. It's really, really cool and unique, but it wasn't Metal Gear Solid until the director's cut. When the director's cut happened, you could start to feel what was coming, and it was a shift towards more action.
Didn't they even add like a cardboard box too in the?
I believe so.
But yeah, I think I remember in the trailer they had them.
From that point on, I knew Metal Gear Solid was going to be all up in Death Stranding, and it is. Like, you play the second one, and there are various overt and vague allusions to it, which is straight up, I love that. I'm a big fan of that. So the director's cut introduced way more items and weapons and that kind of stuff. And a lot of people didn't really find that to be exciting because it undermines what Death Stranding is. But for me, it gave me options. And once I started playing it, I realized I could play that game more like a Metal Gear Solid game. And that has been realized in a much, much bigger form in Death Stranding 2. The format of Death Stranding 2 is essentially the same as Metal Gear Solid 5, where each delivery where you're ferrying one item to the next is a side op in the same way it was in Peace Walker or Metal Gear Solid 5 especially, where you have that one main mission, which is your main delivery that will advance the plot in a major way. And then you have a series of side ops where they're just playgrounds. They're little playgrounds for you to do things and potentially get lost in the open world. And that, from a format perspective, is exactly what I want from an open world action/stealth game. And what you do in the open world in these side deliveries, side ops, is incredibly varied. There's everything from go in here, get the item, and get out and deliver it, which is expressly a stealth mission if you want it to be. And it's how I played it. Every opportunity to go into a place and alert no one, maybe trank a few people and get out, I have taken that. And there's also stuff like, kill this person or take someone else out, while you're doing this delivery, which again is a leaning deeper into the idea of action and giving you more opportunities to use the options you have, which in this game is guns. And that's where also it changes in a major way, where Metal Gear Solid 5 did this incredible thing, which I really loved, which was it introduced guns that were non-lethal, which was incredibly rare. And the reason I thought it was amazing is because I play stealth, I play ghost style, so I don't want anyone to know I was ever there, or I want to trank everyone and leave with clean hands. I do that with every stealth game. The problem is, when you do that, a lot of the times you're forced to not engage with a wide variety of mechanics. Take Dishonored for example. I love Dishonored. I've played the first one, second one many times. Always do a ghost run. The issue with the first Dishonored was there were so many cool powers that were just exclusively for, high chaos or more action focused runs. I never got to do the thing where you use the rats, not once, because I just did not engage with that. It was counter to my playstyle. But in Metal Gear Solid 5, I had an assault rifle that was effectively non-lethal. I had various opportunities to kind of get through an experience while engaging with all the mechanics, but still play the exact way that I want to. And that is present in Death Stranding 2. So beyond the actual combat stuff, how you traverse and how you infiltrate is also much more varied. You have the basic ping, which tells you the kind of lay of the land and that kind of stuff, but also gives you a good look at who is around you and how you should approach it. It's effectively this game's version of whatever the next evolution of the Soliton radar would have been. We've had everything from the Soliton radar to like sound circles and in between. So this fits very neatly into that slot. The biggest introduction for me that I appreciated was Dollman. Dollman is dumb as hell, okay?
Little puppet?
What? Puppet? No, I am alive.
But as a reconnaissance item, he's amazing. Every time I approach any sort of encampment or any sort of scenario where I might be engaging someone, I use Dollman, chuck him into the air, and then scope out where I need to go, a route, and also enemies that are nearby. I get information on what they might be carrying, what type of class they are, which helps me figure out how best to approach it. And it is effectively the same kind of loop that you would have in Metal Gear Solid 5, which is you approach, you kind of pull out your binoculars and look around, see everything, what's going on, tag stuff, and then make an attempt at it, which again, very Metal Gear Solid feeling. For me, as someone who loves those games, I felt like I was playing Metal Gear. The other thing that I think is very Metal Gear Solid 5-esque is the movement. Metal Gear Solid 5, I think for my money, has the best moving across environments feel. The way Snake runs and the way he responds when you push the stick forward, and the sound of his equipment knocking against his suit and like his suit material rubbing against itself, the sound of the wind rushing by, as you can hear him like his breathing get deeper and deeper, it all comes together in a way that is so satisfying that even today I will turn Metal Gear Solid on just to run around because it feels that good. Although Death Stranding doesn't allow you to do it quite the same because it would undermine the kind of deliberate, slow nature in which you traverse and go from A to B, it does give you options in the sequel. One of the things that really helps in also kind of replicating that is the exoskeletons, which you get a variety of for different purposes. I stuck with the speed one because obviously it meant that I could run super fast. And in this game, you press the button and it starts to use the battery that Sam has on him. But the effect that you get from it is very similar to that same kind of like audio-visual feeling that you get from Snake in Metal Gear Solid 5. You can hear it rev up and then you can see the increase in pace. And before you know it, it's like you're in a car and you can hear the pistons moving and you get so much speed out of it. Not so much that it's ridiculous, but enough that you feel good about running forward. And my favorite thing about it is it also impacts the way you jump. So if you're running and then you jump, you go absurdly far. Like not hilariously far, but far enough to be like, yeah, that feels like what an exoskeleton would give you. But it means that you can clear like relatively small to medium streams without having to trudge through them. I just sprint at them and then launch myself to the other side. And Sam does the same kind of like landing, almost snake-like landing, the Terminator pose, and then gets back up and carries on going. That is another part of this game that makes me feel like I'm playing a new Metal Gear game. That kind of traversal, that jump, it is for me the equivalent of when you run a snake and then dive into prone and then you're just like safe. That feeling of going from one movement to the other, it's more thorough in Metal Gear Solid 5, but it scratches the same kind of itch. The one area where I would say Death Stranding isn't perhaps as good as older Metal Gear games is the enemy AI. I don't feel as challenged by them. A lot of the kind of hurdles that are in place when I'm infiltrating stuff are stuff that I've put there myself. I'm choosing to go in here and do a clean hands run or a ghost run. And that is kind of where the kind of challenge comes from. The enemies in Metal Gear, they feel much smarter. They react more. They have a curiosity around them about finding someone. Whereas in Death Stranding, they don't really have that. They feel a little more gamey and artificial. The thing they have is absurdly long vision. Like they can see you from well far away, which can catch you off guard. But once you're aware of that and you work in Dolman to do some reconnaissance and scout out, it's pretty easy to get around them. And if you choose to engage, you can use the taser, which is good because it kind of takes most enemies out as long as they're not armored in one hit. You have to charge it and you have to be really close. So when you're using the taser, taser gun, that's where the tension comes from. However, if you switch the actual tranq gun, the text on it says it's medium range and you need to be relatively close, but you can shoot from pretty far away and get a headshot, and in the off chance you miss and they alerted, you get that same Metal Gear Solid last chance to make the right move moment where you concentrate, and as long as you shoot them back in the head there, you're safe. So the enemies are kind of pushovers, which is the one disappointing part of it. But I understand why it's like that. You don't want to get people bogged down in that part of it when the core meat and potatoes of the games is to move between locations and the experience of being isolated and going from one point to the other. So that's where it kind of is let down. But overall, I think of this game as a Metal Gear Solid 5 sequel in a lot of ways. And the kind of itch that I wanted scratched when the whole Konami things happened and it was looking like Metal Gear Solid 5 was never going to happen, Metal Gear Solid 6 is never going to happen, sorry. It has been scratched by Death Stranding 2, which I did not expect. So those are my rambling, very excited thoughts about Death Stranding 2 and my Metal Gear fandom jammed into one. I made it work. Let me know what you think about it. How are you feeling with Death Stranding 2? Does it do the same for you, where it makes you feel like you're playing Metal Gear Solid? Let us know in the comments and remember to subscribe.